Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I'm on chess.com right now. I just went into Tactics Trainer, and I'm going to try 3 puzzles and just share my thoughts along the way. So, right on cue, I don't know how well you have your volume turned up. The Beagle, those of you who have watched more than one video have likely come across the Beagle in my videos. He is back out, making an appearance. But okay, white to move in this one. He seems to time it just right, let me tell you. Okay, my first thought was actually knight g5 is quite forcing. Material count, let's see. There's a bunch of thoughts running through my mind right now. In fact, one that comes to mind is what type of opening this came from. Anyhow, might be like a French. This bishop did a little zigzag over here. Anyhow, material, white is down material. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Down a couple pawns. White's down a couple pawns. So I'm not so excited about this move anymore, really. You could pick up the rook, taking advantage of this pin, but knight check, king here. Well, hang on for a moment. Knight check, king cannot go to g7 because of knight here. However, after knight check, king to g8, I don't know how great a follow-up there would be. I think I'm a bit more tempted to first take the bishop and remove this defender of the king side, and then we could introduce a new piece into the position, the rook on a1, that's currently not doing a whole lot. So if rook takes here, which is quite the forceful move, you have to pretty much take him right back. If rook takes bishop, king takes, rook g1 check, there's only king to h7, queen g5 we just take, so rook takes bishop, king takes rook, rook g1 check, king h7. Now it's much different. Knight g5 only at that point, and then it's big trouble for black. If the king goes to h8, knight takes rook, just wins a flat-out rook, and it would actually turn out to be a fork. And after knight g5, if the king goes to any of these 3, there's going to be that discovered check. So I believe that's it. Just being a bit cautious, recognizing the material deficit to start on the white side, and well, not going in for knight g5 right away. Okay, let's see if we got it. We do. That is the correct move, and this was my idea. That too is correct. And now finally, maybe the puzzle will end at this point. Not quite. Okay, it's going to make us play out one more move. But that was the correct idea, to first remove that bishop and invite the new piece into the attack, and then finally basically drop the bomb on the position with knight g5. Okay, puzzle 2 coming up. Team black. Alright. First thought is that white has a mate threat here. There's no time for pawn takes knight. Material count. I wonder, where do we stand with that? We're up a pawn. Black is up a pawn in this position. Let's see. I think I see the answer here. Let me try to explain my thought process right there. It just kind of came to me. I'm looking for a way to not just be strictly defensive of the f7 pawn. I want to combine defense with a little bit of aggression in this case. I'm noticing that any defensive move of the f7 pawn will automatically throw some threat at white. Pawn takes knight will be back on, but just doing something like this, strictly defensive move, this does allow for knight takes pawn, so I'm looking for a way to basically defend f7 and still keep this threat in mind, and I could even go one step further. I believe it's important to put pressure on this knight. The move that I'm alluding to here is queen to c7, which is really doing everything. Defends f7 first and foremost, defends the pawn so it does not allow knight takes pawn here, and should the knight avoid capture by the pawn, we're going to be able to snip this knight here. You know what, that's not even needed, this pressure on the knight, in as much as defensive f7 and defensive c4. I think this is the main point here, with the queen playing to c7. If it was the case that, let's say there was an extra defender over here, if this bishop was on g3, then that would be all the more, well, that would be one additional reason to go to c7, defense of f7, c4, and pressure on the knight. But I'm pretty sure this is it. This is really the only move I'm giving consideration to. There's no checking moves. I didn't do a quick scan for that at the start. There's no checking moves. So we could castle, but that's strictly defensive, allows knight takes pawn. I believe it's queen c7. Let's run with it. It is correct. And okay, that wasn't the most exciting of puzzles. Let's see if we could finish up with actually an endgame puzzle. I'd like to see an endgame puzzle, and look at that. Wow, nice. Okay. Team White. What do you do when your opponent is one move away from queening and you don't have a dark square bishop that can try to stop this pawn from queening? Okay. Well, this really feels like an endgame study. So we could be here for a while. Rook check is my first thought. Yeah, rook check. One thought that I have is there's not going to be some stalemate trick. Sometimes there's a way to organize your pieces or some sequence of moves where you could eventually force some tricky stalemate situation. And what's telling me that is that I don't see a way that we could really force black to capture this pawn or anything like that. This pawn will always be able to move. White, I'm assuming there should be some win here. Rook check is the first move. I believe you just must go with that. What I'm considering now is really what black's options would be. Going to e1 would not be good because it allows rook here. We take the pawn and we're in position to stop this guy. And soon enough we'll push the queen. Similarly, going here to e3 after rook d7 check, king to e3. We could play rook here. However, what would we do after, like, king to f4 or king to d4? Don't really get that. Tricky puzzle. Another question I have is, what would we do if, let's say, rook check, king here? Rook d7, king c3. I mean, we could come back over. Rook check, then king back here. Is the best we can do on the white side a draw? I haven't really determined that yet. It will be white either drawing or winning. That's the usual case. That's always the case, really, with the puzzles. Whoever's turn it is to move, it's going to be a win or a draw. So I haven't really determined that yet. I don't believe it's a bishop move to start. Any bishop move, black promotes. And yeah, that's not good. Let's see how that could be good. So rook check. Okay, if the king comes over here, we could keep giving checks. And in response to the checks, if the king isn't coming back to b2 or d2, rook d7, king c3, rook c7 check. If the king doesn't play to b2 or d2, we would play our rook to c1 and be in position to stop the pawn. Rook d7, king c3. Hang on. I'm seeing something now. I'm actually seeing something now. Yeah. Wow. On rook d7, king c3, I think there's a sneaky move. Yeah, rook d7, king c3, there's now rook d3. Trying to help this bishop get into the game. On rook d7, king c3, rook d3 check, king takes rook, allows bishop to b5 check. And then we get to pick up this e2 pawn. It's also worth noting that in that position, if rook d7, king c3, rook d3 check, king takes rook, bishop b5, king d4, bishop takes pawn, king c5, the king will be there in time to stop the pawn, but fortunately for white does have the correct queening square, light square, so white will be able to eventually, after mopping up the h-pawn and e-pawn, he'll be able to push through to win, to queen that rook pawn. He has the correct color bishop. So I haven't considered everything just yet. That's just one variation, starting still with rook d7, king c3, rook d3, and, well, if the rook isn't captured, the rook gets behind the pawn. So I think I have that down pat. Rook d7, king c2 will allow bishop a4 check, and then rook to d1. The pawn could take the rook, but the bishop is there to recapture. And then this pawn will push through soon. So I have that covered, rook d7. I have king c3 covered, king c2 covered. What about king c1? Ah, on king c1, this is a very clever puzzle. It must be a study. On king c1, bishop still plays here, and on the pawn promoting, rook d1 with the fork of the king and queen. Alright, so I knocked out this one. King c3 is covered, king c2, king c1. I know what I'm doing on king to e1. This one here is still, well, earlier it was a little bit fuzzy. After rook d7, king e3, maybe I could still do this. That's probably the case. Rook d7, king e3. This is probably the variation. Well, I don't know if I could say that. I was going to say this is probably the variation that the computer will test me on, but let's see if I have a good answer to rook d7, king e3. I'm thinking rook d3, similar to when the king moves to c3. Rook d7, king e3, rook d3 check. If king takes, same story, bishop b5 check. What if the king goes to f2? We would play to d2 and pick up the pawn, since the pawn's in a pin. And what about king to e4? King e4, there would be bishop check. King to f4 allows for rook f4 check, and then the rook gets to e3. And I believe there's one last variation. Rook d4, king e3, rook d3 check, king f4. What would be my reply to that? This is the one that I'm still trying to picture. Rook d7, king e3, rook d3 check, king f4. Now what? Okay, this one has me a bit stumped what I would do exactly. I'm not able to picture it as well as I would like right now. Rook d7, king e3, rook d3. So my rook is on d3. Their king is on f4. How hard can that be? It could be pretty hard. Let's see. What would I do from there? I'm trying to find a way to combine, to coordinate my bishop and rook somehow. I could play like bishop to h5, and if the pawn promotes, I don't see what I would do there. Ugh. I'm determined to get this. Rook d7, king e3, rook d3, check. Maybe it's not rook d3, check. Second guessing myself, because this is another option, but then it allows for this move. e4. I was considering rook d7, king e3, rook d5. However, after e4, where do you go from there? I still feel like it must be rook d7, king e3, rook d3, king f4, but now what? Oh, rook to f3 check. Similar idea. This is definitely an endgame study. If king takes rook, the bishop comes over here. Similar idea. Skewering the king and the pawn. Giving check when the king moves, you pick up the pawn. Alright, I've spent enough time. Rook d7, king e3, rook d3. If king f3, you give a check here. And if king here, you give... Let me try this one more time. Rook d7, king d3, rook d3 check. If king f4, we give check on f3. Any other move besides king to e4, we would play rook to e3. And if king to e4, we would do what exactly? Bishop c6 check. King to d4. My goodness. Rook d3 check, and then finally we're able to sneak behind that pawn next or still end up with a skewer. My goodness, this was a monster. There was a lot of different variations to calculate. That is correct. It is going with this. Rook d3 check, king there. Rook f3 check. That is correct. Bishop check, king there, and now finally this. Rook d3 check. King takes, finally this, and again, if the king had gone here, do know that we do have, in the end, the correct pawn there to go ahead and push through to queen. My goodness. That took a while. I'm glad I was actually successful with it. I'm almost certain that that was an endgame study, and they are, without question, quite difficult to figure out many a times. Okay, anyhow, feel free to share how you did with these 3 puzzles in the comment section below, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye.